Yo, what's going on guys? It's G-Miners here. I made a video a while back going over why I thought Divinity was not a great weapon for DPS. Depending on what you are running Div for, I think it is one of the best weapons in the game, but I had a debate with some people in my clan the other day, and it made me realize that most people in the community, even top players, don't know when to use Div and when not to use it. Most people are aware that Div gives a 30% debuff, so any enemy you hit with Div is going to take 30% more damage from all sources. But there's this common misconception that because we are getting a 30% debuff, that our total DPS is increasing by 30%, and that's just not true. The issue with Divinity is that one player needs to run Div rather than DPS weapons, so by doing this, your team is going to lose 1/6 of its total DPS. As an example, if we say each player does the same amount of damage or around the same amount, and as a team you are dealing a total of 100 DPS or damage per second, this means that each player is dealing 1/6 or around 16.67 DPS themselves. So by removing one of these players, your total damage per second goes from 100 down to 83. When you end up adding the debuff from Divinity back into the equation, we do get a 30% increase in damage, but this is a 30% increase on the 83 DPS with 5 players, not the 100 DPS that we would get with 6. So at the end of the day, we are taking 83, multiplying it by 1.3 to add in the div debuff, and we are getting a total of around 108 DPS. This is less than 10% higher than if we didn't even run Divinity at all. If you were just to keep each player on a damage loadout and use weaken grenades, which are a 15% debuff, then your DPS would still be higher than Div at 115 DPS. Tether, on the other hand, is a 30% debuff, one of the highest in the game, so by running this, you are still going to get the max debuff while keeping each player on a damage loadout for a total of 130 DPS. Even if you factor in the damage that Divinity is doing by itself, your DPS still isn't going to compare or be better than using weaken grenades and other debuffs. Most arguments against this that people have made is that most teams don't have consistent damage amongst their players, debuffs like Tether don't last as long as Div, and that Div makes hitting crits much easier. When it comes to consistent damage, even if your team has someone who you would consider a weak link or someone who you are carrying through a raid, putting them on Div isn't going to make a difference. The player would somehow have to deal less damage with a DPS loadout than they do while running Divinity. This player could also die, which would immediately remove your debuff for the duration of the damage phase, and chances are, if you are carrying someone, they either won't have Div or are not going to keep it up consistently. When it comes to Tether and the weaken grenades not lasting as long, 1 to 2 players can easily keep a boss debuffed for an entire minute. And I don't think there are any super long damage phases currently in the game that are going to be much longer than a single minute. On Warlock, for most 30-second damage phases, you can keep an enemy debuffed long enough by yourself with double grenades and a Void Soul, and then Hunters can just run Quiver, a grenade, and a Smoke Bomb to do almost exactly the same thing. The final argument is that Div makes hitting crits much easier, and I completely agree with this. There are 100% certain bosses in the game that have extremely hard to hit crits, like Rolk. He moves around a lot, so having Div to consistently hit crits and make for much more consistent damage phases is a no-brainer. This is exactly where I think teams should be running Div. If your team is trying to bake bosses and wants everyone on stasis for Phantom Might, then this would be another area where Div would be good to use. But at the end of the day, for bosses like Caretaker or Morgeth or any other boss where hitting crits is brain-numbingly easy, or Div straight up doesn't even help you hit crits, I think it kind of is a waste to use. If your team still likes to run it, I think that's fine, but I wanted to make this video so that people are aware of the damage increase that it actually provides. Let me know your thoughts, or if you think I missed out on any other reasons to run Div in the comments below. That's all for this video, guys. As always, have a good one. Peace.